Logan here, doing an unexpected review is the only way I can describe it. This time round, we're doing Jurassic World Evolution, which kind of come out of nowhere. And I'm joined by Apps, who's going to do it with me. Apps, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, you.
Yeah, I mixed up the intro, but I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's sticking now. I ain't redoing it, but yeah, didn't expect to be here doing this. It kind of come out of nowhere. I saw you playing it, and I thought, he's probably Kaz or someone else. I don't know. And then you went, I've done about 8 hours or something, and I went, good grief. And then you've seen it through to the end, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I bought Jurassic World Evolution probably about a year ago now on one of those Steam sales, and I thought, right, it's at the price I'll buy it at, and then I'll play it at some point. And as usual, stuff doesn't get played, does it? It just gets dropped and left.
Backlog.
Yeah. I don't even know really why I decided to start it up. I've not played on the PC for a while, and this obviously doesn't really make much use of the power of a PC, but being a simulation game, it does give you that added advantage of that mouse and keyboard. One of the few games, this is definitely one that performs better control-wise being on the old PC because you've got that mouse. Because it's available on consoles as well, but if you've got a PC sitting there that's of reasonable power, I'd say don't be getting that console version, just get the PC one.
Fucking point and clicks are a real stress with a console. You really don't have to be doing that with a controller.
No, it's not ideal. You can use the controller on the PC. I had a little dabble with it, and they're serviceable. It's not like how it was back in the day, but not ideal. Yeah, it's just been sitting there really, and I thought, well, I've got a monitor now that I'm just going to stick with. It's not what I intended to get, but it's fulfilling its purpose. I thought, right, I'll start up Prey, which I've been meaning to play. And then just Jurassic World Evolution, and then somehow I got addicted to Jurassic World Evolution for 2.5 weeks or whatever it was.
Yeah, everything else put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So what? I mean, I think I've got a bit of an idea of what it's about. I sort of see them as glorified mobile games now. Well, it's unfair, but to be fair, it's the sort of game that would probably transfer over well to mobile, I reckon. We could probably get into that a little bit later. I mean, there's a point on our, we go through a little list of stuff when we do these reviews, and it says story. Now, we had a brief discussion off air around this, and I think this could be a rather short part of the review, in all honesty.
Yeah, well, there's not really a story there. It's a business simulation game. If you like the Jurassic Park franchise or Jurassic World franchise, whatever you want to call it, it's quite faithful to it in that sense. It has, the theme music that everyone knows from John Williams. What one's that?
It's Indiana Jones.
Oh, that's it. I've only ever seen those through once, so I don't be getting. They're a bit old for me now. But so it's got that in there, and then Jeff Goldblum is in the game playing Dr. Ian Malcolm. Yeah, playing his character, which is good. So you've got him giving it a little bit of authenticity. He talks you through some of the tasks as well. BD Wong is in it as well, who most people won't recognise that name, but it's Dr. Wu, who's in the first Jurassic Park and pops up in Jurassic World as well. He's like one of the scientists that sort of helped create the original Jurassic Park. And then you've got Bryce Dallas Howard also, who played that bloody woman in Jurassic World that I can't bloody remember. No Chris Pratt.
Right.
So he obviously went up for doing that. Claire Dearing she played, but yeah, he was not interested. So there is a picture of him, okay, but not him. So Owen Grady's played by a pretty dreadful sound-alike. I don't know if they were trying to get him to sound like Chris Pratt, but they didn't, if that was what they were trying. So those guys pop up intermittently throughout the game and give advice, and it's mainly Jeff's ship. He's sort of, every time you go to a new island, he's like, yep, this is what this island is. If he's been there in the film, he'll be like, yep, I remember going here and getting chased by a T-Rex, all that stuff. But yeah, you're kind of appointed as Jurassic World operations manager, and there's like a career mode there. There's two modes, career mode and challenge mode. I'll do challenge mode a bit later on, so I focus primarily on career mode. But career mode gives you 5 islands, all of which have kind of different characteristics. So one might have tropical storms that are quite frequent. One might be really tight on space, so you have to make use of the small amount of land you've got. One has got money problems. And the aim of the game is to get each of these parks up and running and make Jurassic World profitable again. So you want to build up the stats and the rating of your park, and you've got Mr. Goldblum and others in tow helping you through that. So in terms of a story, there's not really much there other than as a career, you're kind of just climbing you out the ladder and becoming, as you're more successful, you know, the managers and the executives are like, oh, well done, but you know, there's no real story there. You don't have to worry about the dinosaurs getting hold of you and having to escape yourself, so don't need to worry about that. But Frontier Developments developed this game, and they developed Roller Coaster Tycoon, which was one of my favourites back in the day. So that kind of helped seal the deal for them. And I've always been a bit of a fan of park simulation games, and like City Builders, City Skylines is one I've played recently, but I always found them a little bit obtuse and complex. This, being Jurassic Park, I'm a bit more familiar with, but I think the mechanics and stuff are a little bit more light touch, so you don't have to worry about too much.
Yeah. I must admit, it's been ages. I used to love those sort of park building games when I was a bit younger, but I haven't really... I don't know, there hasn't been one that's really got me, if that makes sense. Like I've always found them a little bit nostalgic, but they're very difficult to move forward or do something modern or new with. So maybe that desire's never been there. But I bloody used to love Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's good that they're back in the game somewhat.
Yeah, well, they released a game not long ago called Planet Coaster, which got quite good reviews. And that was sort of like a spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon. So they're still knocking around doing bits and pieces, and this is, for me, I always liked the look of, I think it's called Jurassic World Project Genesis or something like that. It was on PS2 even, it might have been that far back, and PC, and I always wanted to play that because it allows you to build a park, and with dinosaurs they could get out and all that stuff. But for some reason or another, that game is just ludicrously hard to get hold of unless you bought it, when it came out. It went out of print, and there was no real digital versions of it that were made and kept along for modern systems or modern PCs. So you'd have to pay like 80 quid if you wanted to pay that. And then when this got announced, Evolution, I was like, cool, that's exactly what I've been looking for. Let's just hope it's not a mobile disaster that's been fucking dumped on the PC or the consoles.
Well, we'll get into that. So, alluding to that a little bit, what does the game look like? Does it feel like it's does it look like a modern game? What are the graphics like? Can you really get up close and personal with them dinosaurs? Yeah,
it's actually quite in depth in terms of its performance and its presentation. Like, it's an isometric view that you can spin around in 3D, and like you have that, you can sort of adjust your rotation and your angle and whatnot. But you can zoom right in to the dinosaurs, and they're all modelled reasonably accurately. They've got their own unique sounds, and you can tell which dinosaur's which from looking at it. And yeah, like, I was impressed at the level of detail. Like when you zoom in and get up close and personal with the actual the dinosaurs, they look really nice. And you'd be forgiven for thinking you're playing a bit of the movie at some points. Yeah, I mean it's difficult to compare it to other type of games because it's not requiring a lot of horsepower on the presentation front, but there's obviously a lot of other stuff going on in the background. But yeah, I think you pick this up in 2019 today, and you go look at that and go, yeah, that's it. That's what we're after at this sort of level for a modern business or park simulation game.
I'm not sure if we touched on it in the rundown and the cards on the table bit, but how much did you pay for it, and when was the game released?
The game itself was released in June 2018. I think I paid... so that is a while ago. I think it's one of those things, I was waiting for it to go under 20 quid.
Yeah.
So I waited for that. And by that time, they had also released a DLC expansion, which I've not played yet, so I'm not going to be going into what that is. But I think it's called The Secrets of Doctor Wu or something like that, and you essentially are going through, I guess, some of his own parks, because he's in the films. He's very much pro splicing dinosaurs, creating new types of dinosaur by putting perhaps two genomes together. So I'm assuming there's a little bit more of that in there. But this game does have the base game does have that element to it as well. You change the colour of your dinosaurs. You can choose different like social or attack kind of instincts that you can apply to them and edit them in that way. But yeah, I've got that as a package, so I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was no more than sort of £20 UK at the time. So it's just been sitting there rotting for 9 months or whatever it is.
That's fine. I thought I don't remember us going over that. I thought it was worthwhile just revisiting it. So I guess you've sort of already alluded to how you kind of progress through the game and the idea of it, but I presume it's kind of a level-based one in career mode, is it? Or different islands that are available? Yeah,
that's it. So the aim of the game is to make your park 5 stars, and there's 5 different islands in career mode. Once you've got your first island to 4 stars, it unlocks sandbox mode, which is basically another island. And on that, you can go there with no money, worries, or power. You can sort of make adjustments and modifications. So you can say, I don't want there to be any power restrictions and things. So you can customize it, and that's where you can kind of post-game, once you finish with career, you go in there with all the stuff you've unlocked and have a build your dream park, I guess. And you haven't really got to worry about any financial pressures or other bits like that. But the career modes, you're tasked with 5 different islands. You can't play all the islands up front, so you have to unlock them in sequence. So you'll start at Island A or whatever it is, you'll complete that challenge or get to that to a certain level. It'll unlock the next one, So you need to ensure that they are up to a reasonable standard. To get 5 stars, there's factors like the amount of dinosaurs you've got in the park, the variety of dinosaurs you've got in the park, the financial health of the park, so how much money you're making, and safety. They all sort of contribute this as other factors as well, but you'll need all of those kind of bits to be working in tandem to get it working. But obviously the aim of the game is to build a theme park with dinosaurs as the attraction. So you can build enclosures and create like I think they're called Hammond creation labs, which is where the dinosaurs are bred. And at the start, you can only breed perhaps a dozen or so dinosaurs. And in order to unlock more dinosaurs, you need to send out an expedition team to dig up fossils in different parts of the world. They bring the fossils back, and at the fossil centre, you kind of like extract the DNA from the fossils, and eventually you'll build up enough DNA of a certain dinosaur for it to become like a viable genome for you to create and use that. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that can occur during the game itself, and breeding dinosaurs and incubating them, then releasing them is part of the game. That's something that you can play around with, and like I mentioned earlier, you can splice and change the DNA, so you can change their colour, you can change their traits a little bit, you can make them more attack focused and things like that. You can try and increase their age, all sorts of weird stuff that you can try and meddle with behind the scenes. So it really plays into like the theme, I guess, of Jurassic World, like the more modern ones, where they're not just satisfied with making a T-Rex anymore. It's like, how can we make the best version of a T-Rex? And that can sometimes come at a cost in terms of its behaviour, or try and maybe get out and eat people.
Yeah. So I presume if you make ones that are too aggressive, that is a bit of a coster in that they get out and start killing guests and stuff.
Yeah, they can get out and kill guests. They're a little bit more, they're harder to look after because their tolerance for not being comfortable is perhaps lower. But also, if you put them in with other dinosaurs, they might attack and kill them. You've got to be careful about which dinosaurs you kind of put in which enclosure. They will fight and be aggressive and attack each other in there. So especially if you don't put enough like food sources in or water sources, and each dinosaur has its own preference in terms of how much water it needs, how much food it needs, how big the enclosure should be, how much forest there should be in the enclosure. It sounds a little bit needy, but it's not actually that difficult. And then also there's like attributes like, are they social animals? So if you just put like a velociraptor in its own enclosure, it will get lonely and it'll try and break out because it's not comfortable. So you have to at least put like sort of 2 or 3 raptors together because they're like pack animals. So you've got to consider that for all of them. They've all got different kind of criteria that you want to fulfill, and it's fine. You can put them in however you want, but if they're not comfortable, that's when they break out and cause fucking havoc. So you've really got to keep on top of and over time get to know each species and what their preferences are, because otherwise you're going to be dealing with every those fuckers getting out and causing havoc.
Yeah, so it kind of reminds me a little bit like of this is dumbing it down really, but an adapted Zoo Tycoon type game.
Yeah, it's not far off that. I mean, the general principle is the same, that you're building a park for these animals to live, and there's obviously a bigger risk of them getting out and causing absolute havoc. But yeah, I mean that's not a bad way of putting it for sure. I mean there's a little bit more kind of depth I think here in terms of if there is a problem, you kind of have to take control and do something about it almost immediately if you're going to try and reduce the amount of deaths that happen. So you can build like ranger centres that allow you to have a few 4x4 jeeps with staff on it. You can send them out to sort of carry out maintenance, fix fences, heal any sick dinosaurs with medication, things like that. And the good thing about the Ranger Centre and the 4x4s is that you can actually, if you want to, you can directly take control of the vehicles. So you can drive, you can drive them around and go into the enclosures and do shoot the dart at the dinosaur and medicate it. Or if you want to, you can take pictures of the dinosaur. Sometimes there's challenges that pop up in regards to that. And there's also an APC sort of helicopter centre as well, which allows you to take control of a helicopter if you want to, or you can automate this, and that's used to tranquilise a dinosaur and transport them. So if one does get out, first case is get that fucking helicopter in the air and get after them, because you need to get them put down for a while so you can move them back in, and fix the fence and whatnot.
It sounds like it's kind of a built out version of it, which is I guess pretty cool really. So I guess, getting into how the game controls and the mechanics of it, I'm guessing it's very much focused around the point and click piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, you scroll around with your mouse. If you go to the edge of the screen, it'll move. You use the keys to change your depth and all that good stuff. So it's pretty kind of standard controls. I mean, the only time it really changes if you take control of, a 4x4 or whatever in terms of that. Or a helicopter, they're slightly different, but the controls work well with a mouse and keyboard, and with these sort of business simulation games, they've always been the best way to play them if you've got access to a mouse and keyboard or a system that allows that, because you can just scoot around and get around the park so quickly, get what you need to do, and carry on your merry way.
Would it transfer to touchscreen very well?
I think you could get away with it. I don't think it's ideal, because there's a level of accuracy and intricacy you kind of need when you're putting up fences or making paths. If you're one of those people where everything's got to be straight, like you ain't gonna with it. You'll struggle on that touch screen. It will be a bit of a stinker, but yeah, I mean you could. I mean, there was I played a game that was not as similar to this. It was a much more stripped down. It was a mobile version of this almost. Yeah. Many years ago, and it was okay, but you didn't really have all that much control, and it was a little bit light touch. It could work, but I think what's going on under the hood in terms of the simulation, in terms of how many dinosaurs you've got, how they're all interacting with each other, I'm not sure a mobile device would, present that well, to be honest. I think it'd be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I'm just on the old app Google Play Store, and I can see the old Jurassic World game that was on there, and it is.
What's it called?
Sorry, it's literally called Jurassic World the game.
Oh, just called that.
Yeah, developed by Ludia Inc.
Yeah,
4.3 stars over 1 million reviews, 10 million plus downloads.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the one I played, it's night and day in terms of quality. But you know, it's a mobile version. What do you expect? In the day, when that Diablo mobile version comes out, that'll be crapped on because it won't be like the real Diablo. But that's what you get, unfortunately, if you're going to go down that route.
Scaled down version. Saying that, PUBG and Asphalt 9, I think, both look reasonably good for mobile
Fortnite
games, and Fortnite, depending obviously on the device you've got. But I think if you've got one of them top end devices or one of them gaming mobiles, you're probably gonna, it's probably not that far off. I think. I mean, I was looking at what these phones now. I've nearly got half the gigs of my bloody laptop. So when you put it in that, it's like it's not really that far off. I mean, my laptop is absolutely nothing to be compared to in any sort of gaming rig.
Yeah.
But it just puts it in perspective, really.
No, absolutely.
We digress.
Yeah.
Not as much as we have on some of the previous reviews, but somewhat nonetheless. So is there anything else? I mean, as you say, it's kind of speaks for itself, really, but is there any other business you think is relevant to this review and what our listeners might need to know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of detail I've missed out almost. There's things like during your park, there's the various like emergency situations might happen. So there might be a power failure, or there might be unpredictable weather that causes a power failure or breaks fences. And like I said, you've got to kind of address these on the fly to keep your guests safe and make sure they're happy, because one of the scores is your guest safety, so you don't want people getting fucking eaten if you can help it. And you can plan and build sort of defence, weather storm defence mechanisms to reduce the impact that has, and emergency shelters which you can open and not open. And like I said, you can sedate escaped dinosaurs and get all those bits and pieces out. But over time, you'll build and unlock new dinosaurs, as I mentioned, throughout the game. I think there's over 40 different kinds in there, so there's plenty to be exploring with. But you'll unlock new like security measures. You might unlock a concrete fence eventually, which is a bit stronger than your typical fence. Then you might unlock an electrified version of the concrete fence. And what kind of makes the game a little bit unpredictable, or something that you've kind of got to react to all the time, is that during your playthrough you've actually got 3 different branches or areas of the kind of overall park structure. So you've got entertainment head, a security head, and a science head, and you've got 3 characters that are assigned to each of these areas. And essentially what they want you to do is they want you to develop each of your parks in accordance with sort of their vision. So they will give the player or you contracts, which will be a series of like mini objectives for you to complete. And this is where they kind of add a little bit of narrative to the game, because each time you say you do a science contract and it's, unearth a new herbivore, like you do that and you get a reputation boost with science. And eventually, if you get a high enough reputation, you unlock a new trait with them. So it might be a new dinosaur genome, it might be a new building that's related to science. But the more you do science, the less your reputation with entertainment and security will fall. So you kind of got a balance between those 3 areas. Keep a close eye on each of your reputation points, because if your reputation gets too low with any specific area, they sometimes, this is a little bit of a cock block and annoying, but they sometimes sabotage the park. So if you're ignoring the security team, for example, and you're just developing in accordance to entertainment or science, getting new dinosaurs in and, doing splicing new ones together to make them exciting, all that good stuff. Eventually the science blokes get fed up and they sabotage the park. So they might, for example, just suddenly power down the gates and open them, which which will suddenly cause absolute havoc, because you've got to get over there, get the gates closed as soon as possible, get everyone into the shelters, open those up, and then reboot the fences and reboot the gates. So it's interesting trying to balance those 3 areas out, and each island has a specific mission that you want to carry out for each of the areas, and they're normally like 3 or 4 stage things. Like it might be create X dinosaur and Y dinosaur, house them together, keep them contained for 10 minutes, and then maybe make them fight or something. It could be something like that, something as silly as that. And so that's as well as just keeping the park running, which will run itself eventually once you've got set up. It's these guys you really want to kind of pick and choose and get the right contracts with and build your rating with. And the idea, the way I did it, was to unlock everything on each island with each of them. So it'd be a case of making sure each of them were at a high standard and eventually getting like a positive perk with them. So that was that kind of adds an interesting spin on it. Where it kind of falls down though is that you will get a contract from security saying, cover the park with 60% storm defense coverage. You think, okay, that's easy to do. And if you do that, you gain reputation with security, but you also lose reputation with entertainment and science. And you think, well, all right, maybe they're not interested in that type of thing. They don't care about security. But then an hour later, you'll get a contract from science saying, make sure storm defences are at 90%. And then now and you go, right, hang on a minute, you just fucking dinged me for doing that with security. And you'll look again, you'll get a plus point with science, but you'll get a negative point with security. And you're like, well, hang on a minute, you've just asked me for the same thing at a lower level, and now you're getting pissed off with me. So they're not that consistent. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it doesn't logically make sense why the other teams are pissed off with you, because like increased financial profit, it's like, why is that hurting anyone? There's people getting fucked off about it, and you're like, well, stop opening the fucking gates. Everyone's making a bit of pie now. Like, it's all being shared out. Annoying.
So that's one bit I can tell that's got up your nose.
Wow, I don't mind it being there, but make it consistent. Make each of the contracts unique enough, and perhaps share out, like if it's storm coverage that will make science and security happy. Like, let it do that. Don't let it always be one minus 2 others, because it's just an artificial way of making you balance it more than it needs to be.
Yeah,
it's not that difficult. Like I said, the one reason that kind of the thing that drew me to this is that it's actually a relatively easy game once you get your eye in. It's not that taxing, and it's not obtuse. You kind of always know why things are as they are, and it's pretty easy to solve each issue. You just maybe got to give it a bit of time and a bit more planning. But nothing kind of beats making a park full of dinosaurs and then perhaps purposely leaving the gates open and just.
I was going to ask you if you'd done any deliberate sabotage.
Yeah, I mean, I'd let I made like a battle royale enclosure where I put Spinosaurus, T-Rex, Indominus Rex, chuck them all into one area and let them all fight it out to the death. Spinosaurus won, so he actually, what he did was quite clever. He didn't actually get involved in any of the squabbling. They like kicked the shit out of each other, the other 3, and then he just came in and picked up the pieces on like a severely damaged T-Rex.
So the Indominus didn't even come second.
Got blown away. But I think the T-Rex I created, I'd spliced him and made him a bit more powerful.
Right.
So I think the edge was with them. So yeah, I was doing things like that, experimenting with how the dinosaurs interact. Sometimes just putting a pack of velociraptors in with the herbivores was a good one. And some of the contracts are, like get a dinosaur up and with 2 combat victories. So kind of the entertainment area want you to create like these legend dinosaurs, and one way of doing that is that they have fights and win. So some parts of the park you could make as like a coliseum, where you have like this legend T-Rex that's like heavily modified and hard. You just chuck him in against other dinosaurs, and then people go there and watch them kick the shit out of each other. But absolutely let a few out and let them roam around and eat some people in the early days just to see what happened. And yeah, it's carnage. They swallow them whole pretty much.
Straight down.
Yeah, no messing around with the big guns.
So is there much to do in the game, kind of once you've... Is it very kind of... Was your focus very getting that story done, and then or were you just sort of having fun and the story being completed was kind of a byproduct to that?
Yeah, well, initially I was just having fun playing it and like building up the park, and then I don't know. And then I kind of got a bit motivated to actually 5-star everything, unlock all the perks with each of the division heads, and then move on to the next island. So I kind of then started playing the game through objectives, and I thought, you know what, once I've done this, I'll have unlocked everything in the game, which means when I go to sandbox mode, then I can kind of not play the game, but sort of just relax and create something that's really amazing. But I started that up, and then because I had no objective or no challenge, I was a little bit... I didn't play it that often. I played it for about 40 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if I fancy this. I quite liked the challenge that was there, which is the opposite way to how I normally play these games. I love just having unlimited money and creating, whatever your creative sort of juices can make. But in this instance, I was quite motivated by having a bit of a challenge, which is why they've also got challenge mode, which was added later on post-release, but it's there now. And this lets you go back to the parks, and it will have certain scenarios essentially, so the difficulty is harder, so you might only have very limited money, or you might have penalties for each guest that's killed, so there might be a financial penalty that you can't recoup, so they're just there to make, give some longevity to the game if you're motivated by having a bit more of a challenge. So it's a bit of a change really. Like I said, I was happy just to get the sandbox mode unlocked, and I was going to sit and rot on that, but then I was like, hang on a minute, I want to get these 5 islands done and impress Goldblum.
Really got motivated to do it. I used to hate those challenge modes, but they used to be on. You could just load them up on like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
That's it. And you start in a right shit heap, and you think, Christ.
Yeah, and it used to be too much stress for me, so I didn't do them. I was a bit like you. It's just like, give me all the money, and I'll create the park I want to create.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought I was going to do, but I think because the difficulty of this game isn't extreme, like in some of those games, you make a mistake for 10 minutes where you're not really switched on and putting the right rides in, or you make an error and spend too much on a roller coaster, it doesn't recoup its money. Then that whole scenario is fucked. You can never kind of regain it. Yeah. Whereas in this, the money is an issue, but you can soon get your kind of your profit and loss in line where you're making a little bit of money, and sometimes you just can't do things as quick because you're only making 20,000 rather than 100,000 an hour or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's a little bit more forgiving. Like if the dinosaurs break out and kill people, that doesn't mean that island's now completely fucked. Like over time, not long, like 15, 20 minutes, if you get all the dinosaurs back in, have no deaths, your safety rating will increase. I kind of like how they have watered it down properly. For some enthusiasts of this genre, they'll think that's a little bit light touch, but for me, where I've tried to play the more complex games and given up, this kept me locked in because I was able to play. I felt like I was sufficiently challenged, but also not just getting a fucking cock shoved up my arse every time and saying, well, you're not going to have to do that now because you've built the wrong roller coaster.
Yeah, I quite like that. I like games, as you know, like Football Manager, where I just sit there and you can kind of just have fun and go through the motions. You're not getting too stressed out about it.
Mate, you're getting sacked from Spurs every time you load up that game.
It takes a few saves to get to know exactly what you need to be doing. That is my argument.
This doesn't. Save one, you'll be there. And you can recover. That's the thing, is it's once you're sacked from Spurs, you've had it, haven't you, in that career? You have to start again. Whereas, in this you won't get sacked, you will be able to recover after a certain time if you play your cards right.
Yeah. So, I think this brings us quite nicely to the grading. I normally have a bit of a good idea where these are going to land up. Peculiarly on this one, I actually don't know because it's kind of caught me so off guard.
I don't even know.
Well, you've got about 10 seconds to think about it, I think. Because I'm going to ask you that magic question where I always say, so what is the Dimp official grading?
Well, the Dimp official grading for Jurassic World Evolution factors in many things. One, the game is perfectly playable, and I think it's, for me, it's a good level of difficulty. I do feel like I said advanced players will struggle with this because they'll just piss it and go, well, that was far too easy. And in that case, maybe don't consider this a game that you're going to be looking at. But it's a faithful adaptation or extension of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. There's plenty of interesting scenarios that you'll cook up by yourself by pissing around with the dinosaurs and creating havoc, and then havoc just suddenly happening if a fucking tornado tears through and rips half the fences out, and you've got to deal with that. Like, there's all sorts of spontaneous stuff that can happen. You'll have your hands full, and for someone in my position who's been struggling to kind of get into business sims, and I've always loved them. I've always loved theme park and theme hospital and all that stuff. Sim City back in the day. And I've been looking for a modern equivalent of that, and I've sunk 35 hours into Jurassic World Evolution. It's not perfect. There's some issues around the logic of these fucking department heads who can't seem to figure out what they actually want in life. As an artificial way of giving you a bit of a challenge. But, someone who's a big fan of Jurassic Park and has been spending a lot of time with Jurassic World Evolution, I think the objective score would be 7 out of 10, but I enjoyed it enough to give it an 8 out of 10. So that's its official grading there. Jurassic World Evolution, 8 out of 10, because it was at that level for me. I think for others it'll be a 7, but 8 for me.
Interesting. I must admit, I didn't see that coming. Gets itself, or in the new or old money, a silver.
Yeah.
That's. I think that's pretty good, really.
It is. And I think there's something there. If you're interested in Jurassic Park and the idea of creating your own park, I don't get it. I mean, it's not. You ain't gonna find anything else that does it. For one, there's simply not another option out there. And secondly, it's a competent simulation. And if you have been intimidated in the past by harder or complex and difficult simulations that require you to bloody have a crystal ball out to figure out why your traffic's building up at a fucking traffic lights for whatever reason, you haven't got to worry about that in this. You've simply just got to understand the mechanics, understand the dinosaurs, plan your enclosures, build them, breed your dinosaurs, deal with all your emergencies, and then move on to the next island, and you'll have a great time with it.
No, it's good. It's always good to have something out there that's a little bit more light-hearted to play. I think not everything has to be bloody hard or challenging or have the world's most groundbreaking graphics or mechanics and whatnot.
No, and if you want that challenge mode is there now. I think that's a harder difficulty for players. So if you want to be stressed out and deal with crisis after crisis, jump into the challenge mode, because that's absolutely there. And I've still got the DLC, the Secrets of Doctor Wu, to play through. So I'll be giving that a go at some point. Don't think I'll review that because I don't. It looks like it's only 2 islands, so I don't think it's worth coming back and dealing with it unless it's doing something quite a bit different. But
unlikely, isn't it?
Yeah, unlikely.
There you go. Don't think there's any much more to say on that. Job done.
Yep.
And there you go, Adkins. Could have done that all probably in about 6 minutes.
Not 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, I can't be held responsible for that.
Well, no. But I do partly hold you responsible as being in control, because that Adkins is...
I weren't in control. I didn't know what I was doing.
Well,
it's that wine.
It's that verbal diarrhea from Adkins as well. That is a horrible combination.
It didn't help. I kept butting in as well.
Yeah, you weren't too bad. You switched off at some points, and other points you just went,
Headache.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone. If anyone's still on and listening, if you've done 2 hours of Anthem, then you can do 40 minutes of this. That's the rule. So thank you, everyone. See you later. Ta-da.
The blowers.